Well, let's bring on Tiana Rhodes now, who's the founder of Skills on Wheels Education Consulting. How are you doing today?
I am doing well this morning, Toby. I have no complaints.
Yeah, that's always good. So,
Yeah.
Skills on Wheels Education Consulting, what is the business? How would you describe it?
So we are a consulting firm that started around the pandemic. We noticed that a lot of parents were bearing the brunt of walking their students through this virtual learning. There were kindergartners and 5-year-olds on virtual learning. And there was really just a lag because parents still had their 9 to 5,
Yeah.
but then they had to teach their children too. So we kind of came in and tried to bridge the gap between virtual school and home.
That's so important because during the pandemic, of course, some parents didn't have time and others, they might not know how to teach because being a teacher isn't really the main part of being a parent.
Right, exactly. And just coming from the classroom background, I was an elementary school teacher. Last year was actually my last year. I went full time with the business, but I felt like I had, something to offer and kind of help parents out who maybe weren't well versed in how do I get my kids to understand.
Yeah. Do you think that even if COVID hadn't have happened, that this service would still be of value?
I honestly do. It's funny that you asked that, Toby. It was never my plan to stay in the classroom like the
Yeah.
full 30 years, but I've just noticed kind of worldwide, there's been kind of a decline in education, especially here in North America. Just a lot of children not reading on grade level, a lot of people graduating high school and not even able to sign their name or type a 5-paragraph essay. Education has just been kind of crazy. So I definitely think that we would have been helpful either way.
Yeah, why do you think that is? What's happened?
So I don't want to be too controversial, but the
Mm.
No Child Left Behind, it's very difficult for a teacher to hold a student back who obviously doesn't understand. And
Yeah.
districts, they really just want to push the children through. I've had a child who's at a 68. That's technically an F in math. They didn't quite get it. And, the higher ups are like, well, they need to go to third grade. So pretty much telling me to give them a 70.
Yeah, that's a bit of a terrible idea, isn't it? Because you need to understand it at a basic level in order to go further, don't you? It's common sense.
Literally, and studies show that when kids are behind, more times than not, they never catch up, Toby. The gap just widens and widens.
Yeah. So, how does your consulting service actually work?
So I always like to start off with a free consult just to hear what the parents or guardians have going on. What are some concerns they have with their student? Everyone learns in a different way. Some people learn 2+2. They can hear you explain it. They got it.
Yeah.
Some people want to see you draw it. Some people are tactile. They need to touch it. So I first like to understand where their child is coming from and what their child would really need from me to determine if we're a good fit. From there, I give them just a grade level assessment to make sure they are on grade level, or if they're not, to see maybe how behind they could be. And from there, we started either a silver package, which is once a week, the gold package, which is seeing me twice a week, and the platinum package, which is seeing me 3 times a week. And all 3 packages have access to Google Classrooms I've created. One is called the Parents Corner. It's just kind of tips, TED Talks, yoga videos, things to keep the parents and the adults calm. And then we have a children's Google Classroom. There are a lot of graphics and practice assignments, fun videos to make learning not feel so monotonous.
Yeah, and it sounds like a one-to-one basis that you do this on. Do you think it's quite important to do that?
I absolutely do. Especially when children already are kind of having trouble in school.
Yeah.
We want to build up their confidence first. And it's easier to do that in a one-on-one setting. Just getting their inner voice to be like, you've got this, keep going. Usually we find that when children are having trouble in school, their inner voice starts to become really mean to them, and they get frustrated. I can't do it. So I really like to build them up in a one-on-one setting first. We do offer group classes for different state standardized tests coming up. But overall, it is a one-on-one model.
Yeah. And I guess the trouble with the normal model of school as well is that if a child is struggling, a lot of the time they feel like they can't tell anyone about it because of embarrassment or whatever.
Precisely. And I like to call it reverse psychology. I would always tell my students, don't you love me? I thought you guys loved Miss Rhodes. And they're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, so why aren't you okay with mistakes? Because if
Mm.
you didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
Mistakes are okay. So I kind of try to flip it on them and let them know it's okay not to know. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's such a good point, actually. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, how do you expect the consulting service to grow? Have you got plans to expand it in the future?
Absolutely. I actually met a lot of amazing colleagues
Mm.
during my time in the field. And there are already teachers who are looking to leave the classroom and asking me, do you have a spot for me? Do you have students? And we're still getting off the ground, but I would definitely love to expand and bring on more educators who love kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that it's sort of 1, 2, or 3 times a week. So, a lot of people might be a bit hesitant because they don't want to commit. But really, if it's only a few times a week, it's not much of a commitment, is it? So there's no reason not to go for it.
Precisely. And there is no contract.
Mm.
So if we have one session, you're like, this might be too much for my child. They might need a different fit. We are not, holding your financial information
Yeah.
hostage. In fact, I have a few referrals for other tutors in the area. There's space for everyone to have clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where are we able to find your business everywhere if we're interested?
You can find me on Instagram at Skills on Wheels,
Mm.
LLC. You can also find me on Linktree, and my Linktree is actually connected to that Instagram bio. Again, it's going to be Skills on Wheels, LLC.
Yes. And here's an important question, which I should have asked earlier. Is it a global service or just America?
Right now, Toby, I'm honestly open to a global service because
Yeah.
children everywhere need the help.
Well, many thanks for coming on the show. It's been great having you here.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.